Now the fun begins.
Richard.
Stop! You violated the law.
Welcome back to another episode of the Gamecast, your weekly go-to podcast for all things Xbox, Xbox Game Pass, and, of course, PC gaming, including news, rumors, and conversation around them damn good video games. You can catch new episodes of the show when they drop each and every Friday morning on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and all other major podcast services. So, be sure to subscribe to us, rate us, review us, all that jazz that I tell you every week, wherever you get a podcast at, the whole rigmarole. And follow us on Twitter at GPGC Podcast to stay up to date with everything regarding the show, video games like, and our dope giveaways. If I could spit it out there. I'm your host, as always, Travis White, aka Traveless, on most internet platforms. Joining me, as always, is actually no one this weekend. Just kidding. Normally, joining me, as always, is Mike Peapack. But unfortunately, Mike's not going to be on the show this week. I know I said it last week, but kind of another quickie this week. I know, real hot and heavy. No, but kind of a quick one this week. Shocker, life gets in the way sometimes for a lot of people, and right now, life is just fucking busy for both Mike and I. But we obviously were very transparent about how, not that we don't want to have, we want the content that we give to you guys, and, because everyone's been so great and dedicated over the past 2.5 years that we've been doing this show. But, we are committed to, we want to make sure you have the content to you every week at Friday, 9 a.m. when it drops. You know that you're getting something from us. I feel, how do I want to put this? A drive, a need to do that, to commit to that, to have to that, to hold myself accountable for that. That's kind of what I was wanting to say. An accountability to do that. I don't know if anybody else does, but hey, you know what? God forbid we miss 1 week. Yeah, obviously it's not the end of the world, but I feel an obligation to you guys because you've been so good to us that we want to make sure we get content out to you guys, obviously every single week or as much as possible, yada yada. So that being said, it's just me this week. Mike is playing he's actually been now yet again in another Halo Infinite tournament. This is the HCS qualifier for kickoff qualifier for Raleigh, their first big event for HCS with Halo Infinite. That's coming up here in not next weekend, but the weekend after. So they're having their kickoff event for this, the qualifier for it. This weekend, him and his team are playing. They played in the first weekend, I believe it was, with Infinite. It was the first weekend with Infinite. They played in the one quick kickoff tournament that HCS had. They did really well. They actually made it to the top 24 teams, which was great. Eventually losing to Sentinels in winner's bracket and then getting bounced right before they were going to play potentially Optic, which ended up being the grand champion that week, or that tournament. So there you go. But Mike's really busy doing that. He's had some work stuff too. And on my end, I'll be quite honest with you, a fucking nutty week with work. On top of that too, I'm getting to see a little band called Neck Deep tomorrow after I'm recording this on Wednesday, but getting to see a little band called Neck Deep finally yet again. I've seen this multiple times, seeing them now, but my favorite band, them in the story so far, probably my two favorite bands overall. It'd probably be, if it was, see, I have a hard time saying like favorite bands, like, oh, this, but gun to my head, it's like a 3 or 4 way tie with Neck Deep, the story so far. Those are my two big hitters that I know albums inside now. I think Under Dirt and Soil is a perfect album. The story so far is first album. It's 10 years old now, and I listen to it constantly still for the past 10 years. So, and I'll listen to it for 10 more years. On top of that, too, Neck Deep, for like the fourth year in a row. They're like my most listened to artist on Spotify. It's always the story so far in them fighting it out. But yeah, and then probably, like I said, a four-way tie. Well, I should say two-way tie for first with those two-way tie for second with Knuckle Puck and State Champs. So really, obviously, really big pop punk fan. So it's been a good week for music for that. But the most recent show I was going to go to of Neck Deep's was originally they were going to do it in 2019. No, that's right. They nixed that. They changed that up a little bit. No, it was for 2020. Yeah, it was for 2020. The original date, they bumped it to then September of last year, which then obviously got nixed. So they bumped it, and it's finally this Thursday, so tomorrow. So yeah, this time tomorrow I'll be wrapping up Neck Deep. But really excited to see those guys again play live. They're fucking incredible. But yes, that kind of blindsided me because I was like, oh shit, that's right, that concert's this week. So on top of that, with a crazy work schedule and trying to just be a human being and see my wife now and stuff like that and our dog, and play some games together and whatnot, it's a nutty week. Our schedules couldn't align. So no, this isn't, oh my God, they're breaking up. They're not doing the show anymore. Oh my God. No, by all means, no. And we're also preparing, too, for a little game called Halo Infinite, the campaign of that, which drops officially next week, and we may have a big review on that next week. So you will be getting the normal show next week, trust me, in all of its full glory. Just these past 2 weeks with the holiday and everything going on in the shadow drop of Halo, and Mike getting in that, and both of us putting an astronomical amount of time into that game for multiple different reasons and whatnot. It's just been nutty. And to work, specifically, me working college athletics and having a crazy work schedule this time of year, it's crazy. So, long story short, we'll be back to your normal programming next week. I obviously wanted to just talk to you guys for this week, just to kind of check in on you, see how you're doing, give you a little update on, some of the stuff going on in the gaming world, specifically in Xbox and PC, as always. But I guess getting into what I've been playing, really, I'll be quite honest, it's just been Halo Infinite. On my own, at least that is the primary thing that I'm playing. I think I put about 50 or so hours into Halo Infinite now, multiplayer, obviously. I'm having the same issues, really, with it still that I've encountered, which I'm cognitive of, hey, this is a free-to-play multiplayer game now. There's the clientele who's getting into this game is so much broader than a traditional $60 whatever, or really, a traditional paid package that you're going to get multiplayer experience. That you're going to get with Call of Duty, that you're going to get with, traditional Halo titles, that you're going to get with Halo is now live service. So it's a lot different of an aspect to really jump into it and cognitively pull from and say, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is, it's just, I also need to remind myself of that, of, hey, there's a lot of people getting in. This game is massive already. There are going to be tweaks to it. This game is going to look drastically different, I'm sure, in the next, between now and 3 years down the road. Hell, even 6 months from now, it could potentially look drastically different. But I'm still loving the game just incredibly. There's a lot. It's making Game of the Year interesting already. That's all I'm going to say. And I know we still got another month. We still got campaign to come out too, and that's going to be an interesting way that we weight that package that comes out. Previews are stellar right now. So I'm really, really, really excited to get my hands on that and really give you guys a nice full review on it next week. But yeah, outside of that, the one game that my fiance and I have been playing, as I'm trying my best to, because we're eventually going to get it now into, the holiday season, gonna have finally some downtime, that I'll be able to kind of chip away at my backlog, which I've been trying to do, but obviously with work and different things like that and life, and obviously Halo Infinite taking over a large majority of my time. It's been, and I think Mike's already like 110 hours in, something like that. No, granted, he's playing at a much higher semi-professional level, so it's a little different. But and my work schedule's been crazy, or I'd probably have at least 80 hours into that game already. Anyways, though, but yeah, chipping away at stuff for my backlog, starting that already. Obviously, too, with Game of the Year. Not that I'll be quite honest, this isn't going to make my list, but still an enjoyable game and an experience that I wanted to continue on, especially with my wife playing. Finally got around to playing the newest entry in the Dark Pictures anthology, the House of Ashes, which a lot of people noted or know that Ashley Tisdale's in that game. This time around, she's the actor, the big name actor, quote unquote. No shots given to Ashley Tisdale or whatever, but you get what I mean. The recognizable face that they're putting into this game. But it is the newest entry in the Dark Pictures anthology from Massive Games that or not Massive, Supermassive. I'm sorry. I was like, I know, no, Massive is fucking who's McCall? Ubisoft, the Division. I was like, I knew I got that wrong, but yeah, from Supermassive. That I'm a big fan of. I was always a big fan of Until Dawn on the PlayStation side, and wanted to obviously keep up with anything they're doing. So was really happy to see when they obviously came out with the Dark Pictures anthology, and they're like, hey, this is pretty much going to be a yearly installment type of experience that are, going to have almost like in a way of what's the show I'm thinking, American Horror Story, in the sense of, hey, you're going to see similar actors pop into this, but they're going to be playing different roles, and this one's no different. Obviously, the first two games necessarily didn't meet the high expectations that Until Dawn, gave us, but I'll be honest, I actually really enjoyed House of Ashes. I thought the story was pretty compelling overall. Some of the characters were, but I thought that the dynamic that they had, a lot of them was much more believable this time around. Call me crazy, but I didn't necessarily feel that way with, and that's no shot against like Will Poulter or anybody in Little Hope, but the character writing in that one and necessarily the character dynamic specifically between them didn't necessarily believe, especially the setup of this hodgepodge group of college students and on this weird trip, and this it just didn't really fit. It did not really fit. Wasn't very believable for college. If you think of college age kids and this, it just didn't make any sense. So, but this one feels much more believable. I do have, granted, it's still not the most detailed writing. There was still some like you could definitely tell that they didn't do in-person mocap on this, like for what was going on with the game and whatnot, like because there's definitely some deadpan a little bit that, like, not purposefully is like, oh no, you just this clearly wasn't this clearly wasn't recorded or shot in person. That these are two lines that are being, two audio files that are being synced up compared to, hey, we're doing this in tandem, like we're just doing our lines together kind of thing. That came off a little awkward. But overall, I like the premise of this one. I think the execution worked more than the other entries. So this definitely, I personally thought that it started as low as possible. But granted, I wasn't a big fan of Man and Medan just from the premise of the narrative and the setting and everything that was going on with it. I just didn't really care that much about Ghost Ship. Like, it just didn't really grab me. But at the same time, too, I didn't think it was a horrible game. I thought it was better than reviews, and even Little Hope too. But my review would be, it would be at 3, Man of Medan, Little Hope at 2, and then House of Ashes at 1 now. I think this is the best entry so far, and it's continuously, if you ask me, trending in the right direction. We're seeing small, integral jumps in quality that we're getting from these games. So, I really enjoyed it. Maybe not really, but, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good experience overall. I thought, I'm ready for the next one, which we did see. I can't remember off the top of my head which one it was, but it's about, serial killer and stuff like that. So my wife was fucking all over that shit. She was like, I am ready to play this next one. And I like, too, that they were like, hey, that's going to be the finale of Season 1 of the Dark Pictures Anthology, which I think is really cool that they're looking at this as almost sagas or books, or hey, this is a chunk you're going to be able to go, I guarantee at some point we're going to see hey, you're going to be able to buy a Dark Pictures Anthology Season 1 disc, and you're going to get all 5 of these games, or whatever it'd be, or 4 of these games. You're going to get 4 of these stories on here. And cool, you're going to get to have that on one disc at one point, or buy that as a bundle, or whatever, And then we're going to be like, I think we're going to see really hey, since we've been developing these games all in tandem and really kind of, while they're short experiences, I mean, it took us 2 sittings to beat House of Ashes. It was not very long at all, but we'll be able to, take what we've learned on these and finally be able to take a breath and kind of pull out what we really want to change and improve on these. Because there's something there. I really think there's something there. I think Supermassive is excellent at what they do in terms of narrative storytelling in a horror medium, and giving, I think, player choice is really good in these games, much more than Telltale did previously in a lot of their games, even though I love Telltale narratives. So I'm really enjoying it overall. But anyways, for this week, like I said, really not a ton we wanted to get into, just for the sole fact of, we've been crazy with our schedules and stuff like that, and didn't necessarily want to, didn't have a chance to really dig in deep for this week. But I did want to kind of touch on a few things. One, the first one being, Respawn put out a note earlier today that I thought was really interesting. This is a write-up that comes from Joseph Knopp over on IGN, and it's titled, Respawn is ending all new sales of Titanfall, the original Titanfall, that is, removing it from subscription services later. So, like I said, Joseph Knopp over on IGN, give Joseph a click over there, check out his article, it's really good. After 7 years, Respawn is finally ending all new sales on the first Titanfall game, starting today. Titanfall will also be removed from subscription-based services on March 1st, 2022. However, any player who's already purchased Titanfall will still have access to live servers. Despite the removal, Respawn insisted that Titanfall is part of the community or the company's DNA, and that the universe will continue. Their note read, Pilots, Titanfall is part of our DNA at Respawn. It's a game that showcased the ambitions of the studio when it was first released more than 7 years ago, and it continues to be a beacon of innovation that we strive for in all of our games. We've made the decision to discontinue new sales of the original Titanfall game starting today, and will be removing the game from subscription services on March 1st, 2022. We will, however, be keeping servers live for the dedicated fan base still playing and those who own the game and are looking to drop into a match. Rest assured, Titanfall is core to Respawn's DNA, and this incredible universe will continue. Today in Titanfall 2 and Apex Legends, and in the future. This franchise is a North Star for the caliber of experiences we will continue to create here at Respawn. Thank you from the entire Respawn team. So it's really interesting that I think, it's interesting to me that this is happening to the first Titanfall, which I shouldn't say that it's I'm not saying it's shocking or this is like, oh my god, this is unheard of, because this is a game that's over 7 years old. This is a game that for its time was, I think, really, it was hindered more so by, I think, how horrible the launch of the Xbox One was, because this was really being released as, hey, this is the first big exclusive for Xbox. We're not getting, we're not getting a new Halo yet. That's coming next year. Like, we're still getting a year on that. But this is the first big exclusive that, hey, you're going to want to rush out to buy an Xbox for. And I think because of not having having a single player campaign, being online only, yada yada, it just was a recipe for disaster, but not necessarily completely all on the game's fault. I know that I love the dynamic of that game. I love playing it, the mechanics, yada yada. And I still am a fan of Titanfall 2. I think Titanfall 2 is fucking incredible, and I will hands down stand by the fact that Titanfall 2 has one of the best single player campaigns for an FPS out there, bar none. If you can get your hands on it, play it. I'm curious though, if Titanfall 2 hadn't had that research that we've seen, thanks to Apex, thanks to, a lot of different factors, if that wouldn't have been Titanfall 2. Or Titanfall earlier and now Titanfall 2. It's interesting to see where this franchise would have been at that point and what's going on with it, and because it's they clearly are saying, hey, Respawn saying, and I don't think there's bullshit to this in any capacity. Respawn saying, hey, even though hey, a lot of our concerns are focused on Apex, a lot of this and that is focused on yada yada. Obviously, Apex is their crown jewel right now. Respawn is eventually going to be expanding, and I think a lot of factors into what happens with Titanfall are really still up in the air, but not because necessarily of their own volition. So kind of, let's look at a big picture. And there are two, potentially three, but what we know of, two major teams that work on things at Respawn. There's the Apex Legends team, and you could obviously, if you want to splinter off Titanfall or whatever, that could be in there, or the side team that's working on either more things in the Apex Legends universe that could be spin-offs, whatever, like that are brainstorming new ideas and prototyping and things like that. And then there's the Jedi team that is working on currently the successor to Jedi Fallen Order. Whether that's a sequel, whether that's an anthology entry, what have you. I would imagine it's probably a sequel. But I think things are a little tampered right now. I think their hands are kind of cuffed by Apex. I don't want to say, oh, they weren't expecting Apex to blow up, because I think to a degree, I mean, you have to be like, yeah, we're owned by a third party or a large AAA third party developer that's going to put a ton of money behind this. They want to get into the free to play battle royale, scope. They want to have something that competes with Fortnite. They want to have something that, competes within the large scale FPS universe. And, while they probably weren't like completely, I remember playing Apex at launch and, a lot of people really digging it. This is really fun. But I think a lot of people were expecting at first, it's going to get its 2 weeks of blowing up, and then it'll have a nice dedicated fan base, and it'll still be relevant, but not to the extent of a Fortnite, whatever, Call of Duty, yada yada. But that didn't happen. Apex just kept growing and growing and growing and growing, and maintaining its relevancy and finding that really good, like, I don't want to say like surprising niche. I don't want to even say niche because it's so big, like, but being able to find that audience that, hey, you're pissed off at Fortnite? Cool, come play on, come play Apex. There's a lot of, hey, you're always going to have somebody, you can, but at the same time, you can still drop solo if you want, but you're going to go up against three, other teams of 3 or 2 or whatever. I think their successes lean more into the failures of others of, hey, Fortnite's having an off, couple of months. Cool. It's bringing people into Apex. Hey, Warzone's still, just overrun by cheaters. Cool. Come on over to Apex. We'll take care of you. And Respawn being so fucking good at shooting mechanics and movement and just knowing how to fucking design incredible gaming experiences with polish that you usually don't necessarily see at a third-party AAA level due to the fact that they're developing something for every single fucking platform under the sun kind of thing. That you're really fucking seeing that with Apex. Like, it is fucking polished, man. Like, it's been polished since day one. Like, it's felt so good all the time. But I think because of that consistent growth that they've been seeing with Apex in terms of whether it's actual numbers or just word of mouth or mainstay in the gaming landscape, that it's hard for them to say, fuck, let's go make Titanfall. We'll take people off Apex. They can't justify that. Like, same with, who knows if they were expecting Jedi Fallen Order to really have the sales, the critical reception, all of that. I'm sure they said, hey, we could tell we have a good game here. Hey, we could tell we have a great, Star Wars experience and great gaming experience here for single player gamers. But but who knows if they were expecting it to really blow up to that level of, hey, this game sold really well. Oh shit. If they wouldn't have released like a couple days after the deadline for Game Awards voting, probably would have been Game of the Year contender. I feel very safe saying that. So potentially a Game of the Year winner, especially with how unique 2019 was for the releases that we saw. But to me, though, it doesn't necessarily mean Titanfall's dead. All of that doesn't mean Titanfall's dead. And it's not necessarily, hey, Respawn is, well, we just don't want to do it. Because I guarantee there are people who are there at Respawn who wanted to go and work at Respawn because of Titanfall 2. Or because of Titanfall. Or because, hey, of Apex. But man, you know what? I really, really want to... I see what this has blossomed into, but I want to get to the roots of Respawn, and I want to help you guys blossom and have, really a trifecta of things going on here. Because it'll be interesting to see what happens with, now that the Star Wars license is taking the, Disney's taking the Star Wars license with gaming, the same kind of route that they did with, or at least for Lucas titles, but obviously Star Wars, the same kind of route as Marvel games with, hey, we're going to just we want to work with studios who feel like they can fit our mesh. Like, we don't want to do a one-stop ball. We want to be able to kind of handpick, get different experiences like Spider-Man and Insomniac and, and Wolverine obviously coming up here soon. But, Guardians with Square Enix, which is next on my list to go through, on my backlog list. I'm really fucking excited about that. But yeah, like, there's just so many reasons why their hands are really just tied. And it's not because I don't want, because I definitely think we're going to see a Titanfall 3 at some point. I don't want to, obviously, definitely not in the same caliber, but it's almost like that Half-Life 3, where it's like, not in the sense of like, oh, it won't be able to live up to, it's been gone so long, it won't be able to, not in that sense, but more in the sense of whether it is a Titanfall 3 or Titanfall whatever, there will be a new Titanfall experience of some kind that is very much Titanfall, not Apex Legends. Here's a Titanfall season, because they kind of did that already. But we're going to get a new Titanfall experience, whether that's Titanfall 3 or whatever, but it's going to be a new standalone Titanfall experience in the future. At some point, they'll figure out a way to make it happen. I mean, there's obviously enough clamor, enough noise around this franchise and enough, that they're seeing still new player concurrent highs with the PC release and the console release, and you know what I mean, like years later, 5 years later. So to say that we're never going to see another entry in Titanfall is, to me, ridiculous, because to me, it's a given. Like I said, that's where I get the comparison with Half-Life 3, where we kind of already seen that, but it's just, even though I find it hard to say that about Alex, while it is it is a legitimate Half-Life video game, not just, an on-rail shooter kind of bullshit. Like, it's not just a VR experience. It is an actual fully fleshed Half-Life game. I still think we're going to eventually get a Half-Life 3, whether it's Half-Life 3 or Half-Life whatever, a new mainline entry in that series. That's where I say it's like, they could do that at any time. But more so, it's going to happen. There's too much clamor around it. Still, like, fucking how many years later? Almost 20 years later. There's still enough talk around it that they're going to do it. And they're going to make a lot of money. Just like Titanfall. Now that Titanfall has this relevancy again, they're going to do it. There's no way that they wouldn't do it if they're able to manage that properly with a development cycle that's proper. So I could definitely see them staffing up. EA obviously sees that there's money in that. And obviously, as everyone knows, that's really what talks with publishers of that caliber, of that size. So it's going to be really interesting. I'm really interested to see what the future of Titanfall looks like and everything like that. So I'm stoked about that. That was really the one thing I did want to hit on. Like I said, these past 2 weeks have been just nutty with the holidays and work being crazy and trying to, Mike obviously being caught up with Halo and everything like that. It's just crazy. Plus concert I'm going to and trying to have a life of some sort. It's crazy. So we'll finally be able to rest assured, next week we'll be back to normal. We'll have a normal show. It'll be our Halo Infinite campaign review in progress, I'm sure, because I can't imagine we're gonna be able to finish it all in one night kind of thing. Unless I do value sleep now as I'm slowly approaching my 30s. I still value sleep. Or I value sleep more now. But I definitely think but we'll definitely have a review in progress for that. That hopefully then the week after we'll have our kind of final verdict on the whole package of Halo Infinite. But definitely will be a normal show of, we'll have button mash, we'll have party chat, we'll have all the normal things of the show next week. We'll be back to normal. Mike and I will both be back here. We'll be getting ready for, and hell, we'll be gearing up for that point for Game of the Year discussions already. As we're approaching the end of fucking 2021, which is fucking crazy to even think that. I don't like the sound of that. Because then I'm going to be, realistically, I got 1 month left until I'm 29. And then I got 1 year left in my 20s. Then I just died. They kill you at 30. It's crazy. They just kill you. You're like, no, you're just fucking dead now. So, but no, I don't want to even think about that. I'm going to cling to my 20s forever. Hello, fellow kids. Anyways, though, yeah. Next week, we'll be back to normal. We'll be talking video games much more in depth in a normal capacity. Just the past 2 weeks with the holidays and just fucking life in general getting in the way. It's just been fucking bad. So I apologize for that, but as you guys know me, I'm a stickler for, hey, I want to make sure I'm talking to you guys every week because you guys really have gone to bat with us over the past couple years with the show and, inspiring us to keep going for almost 130 episodes now, which is fucking crazy, man. It's really fucking crazy. So just know that it means a lot. And that's why, hey, it's 11:30 at night and I'm recording a podcast by myself. A short little, granted, a short little one, but that you guys are the best. And I feel it's an obligation and, I feel driven to make sure I talk to you guys every week. That's something I want to hold accountable for myself, whether it's me and Mike, just Mike, whatever. Like, I want to make sure one of us is talking to you. So back to normal next week, I promise. After these crazy things. And we're going to talk a lot about Halo next week. Shocker, I know. But anyways, this has been your newest episode of the Game Pass Gamecast, your weekly go-to podcast for all things Xbox Game Pass, and of course, PC gaming, including news, rumors, and conversation around them damn good video games. You can find new episodes of the show when they drop each and every Friday morning on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and all of their major podcast services. So, be sure to subscribe to us, rate us, review us, all that jazz I tell you every week. And follow us on Twitter at GPGC Podcast. Stay up to date with everything we're in the show, video games like, and our dope giveaways. And as always, I'm your host, Travis White, aka Traveless, on most internet platforms, including at Traveless _ on Twitter. That's TRAVLESS_. You can also find me streaming time to time on twitch.tv/Traveless _ same as Twitter. I'm back doing streaming again, too, on a much more consistent basis. So swing over there. Playing a lot of Halo. You'll see me get pissed off playing ranked and being kind of hard stuck in, like, Plat 6 and Diamond 1 and trying to work my way towards fucking Onyx and solo queue. So come over, have a lot of fun. You can make fun of me. It's a great fucking time. And also, too, if you want to play some video games with me, you can do so over on Xbox Live and pretty much every other platform. It's just regular old Traveless. That's TRAVLESS. So, that being said, that is our short episode for this week. So, thank you everyone, as always, for being a part of our growing community. We'll have a much more normal episode next week. We'll be back in the saddle. Mike will be back here. We'll be talking for an hour plus like we usually do. It'll be all good, all gravy. We'll talk a lot about Halo and campaign and this and that. But, okay. But, as always, thank you so much for being a part of our growing community. Game on, wash your hands, listen to the doctors, Black Lives Matter, and we will see you next week.